After transmigrating into a novel, I promptly initiated divorce proceedings. After all, he finds me dull and mute. Once divorced, he can pursue his first love, the ephemeral moonlight of his heart, while I indulge in the company of 10 chiseled male models, playfully caressing each with a single finger. Haha. Had I not been mute, I would have already expressed my elation aloud. Little did I know, my soon-to-be ex-husband could hear the unspoken desires of my heart. 1. Xia Yunjian paused as he perused the divorce agreement. Have you found someone new? I typed 2 characters on my phone. No, how could I seek another partner without being divorced? Hurry up, don't delay my rendezvous with the male models. Ha! Xia Yunjian let out a soft chuckle and tossed the divorce papers onto the coffee table. He reclined languidly on the sofa, his broad shoulders, narrow waist, and long legs showcasing a physique that was nothing short of spectacular. Indeed, the white pants accentuate his build. Perhaps I should test the allure of little Xia on the eve of our divorce? Cough, cough, cough. His drinking motion faltered, the water spilling onto his shirt. I swiftly retrieved a tissue to assist him in wiping away the dampness, casting a questioning glance his way. Are you all right? I'm fine. Xia Yunjian spoke rapidly, instantly springing up from the sofa. I regrettably withdrew my hand. What a pity, I was so close to feeling those abs. Seemingly evading something, Xia Yunjian hurriedly exclaimed, I'll go change, and dashed up the stairs. After all these years as a married couple, why still maintain such distance? Undressing here wouldn't cost him a thing. As he ascended the stairs, he nearly slipped and stumbled. This exchange lasted for 2 hours. I sat on the bed, clutching the divorce agreement, my peripheral vision inadvertently glancing at Xia Yunjian. He was clad in a dark sleeveless nightgown paired with matching shorts. His biceps nearly rivaled the size of my own chest. I couldn't help but wonder about the texture of his skin. We had been married for a year, and I had yet to experience the touch of his skin. What a cruel twist of fate. I maintained a serious demeanor as I extended the divorce agreement to him. Just as he settled onto the bed, Xia Yunjian abruptly rose to retrieve a shirt from the wardrobe. Confused, I retracted my outstretched hand and typed on my phone. Are you hot? After all, it was summer. The air conditioning is too cold, he replied. I glanced at the air conditioning unit displaying a temperature of 28 degrees and nodded in understanding. I hadn't anticipated that the young Xia would be so sensitive to the cold. It seemed to suggest a certain frailty in men, a disappointing realization. Then, to my surprise, Xia Yunjian discarded the shirt he had just donned, allowing a thin blanket to slip down to his navel. With his arms resting behind his head, the smooth contours of his muscular physique captivated my gaze. Through the gaps of his tank top, I could see the robust outline of his chest. He explained, I suddenly feel quite warm. I was probably cold earlier because I had just taken a shower. Blinking, I once again offered the unsigned divorce agreement. My phone chimed with a message. Just sign it. Let's part ways amicably. I will explain everything to my grandfather, he replied. Our marriage was never rooted in mutual affection. A flawed union cannot endure. Xia Yunjian stared at the divorce agreement for what felt like an eternity before. Ultimately, he signed it, as I had wished. A sigh of relief escaped me. His first love was returning to the country, and upon their reunion, it would be like dry tinder meeting a raging fire, swiftly rekindling their passion. Meanwhile, I, the Mrs. Xia who occupied space without contributing, would be viewed as a thorn in the side of the heroine in a novel. Aware of Xia Yunjian's indifference towards me, I had nonetheless insisted on this relationship. Ultimately, I would be ensnared in the heroine's trap, leading to my demise. What a tragic fate indeed. He handed me a card. There is 10 million here. Consider it a divorce settlement. I smiled knowingly, my eyes sparkling with delight. Without hesitation, I accepted it. Yet, I soon realized that Xia Yunjian held the card tightly, making it impossible to retrieve. Had he changed his mind? A petty man possesses the least grace. Just as I prepared to relinquish my grip in resignation, Xia Yunjian proactively pressed it back into my hand. What is given to you is yours. I hope you utilize this money wisely and refrain from engaging in illegal activities. The emphasis he placed on illegal activities was unmistakable. I thought to myself, I am not foolish. Merely touching and not crossing boundaries, I had committed no offense. As I typed thank you on my phone, before I could show it to him, Xia Yunjian sulkily buried himself under the blanket. The complexities of a man's heart can be as elusive as a needle in the ocean. May you not suffer from the heat, I shrugged indifferently, cherishing the card as I tucked it beneath my pillow and turned off the bedside lamp. As I drifted into slumber, I pondered, it seems I will never experience the power of little Xia. Shortly thereafter, I succumbed to dreams. In the darkness, Xia Yunjian quietly opened his eyes and turned to glance at his ex-wife, Su Zhixia, who lay beside him. He was not fond of her, yet, under the pressure of his grandfather, he had married her. Post-marriage, they maintained a courteous distance, conversing daily about the same mundane topics. Su Zhixia would inquire, "Have you eaten?" To which Xia Yunjian would respond, "Yes." She would follow up with, "When will you return?" And he would reply, "Working late, I'll be home later." "You should sleep first, don't wait up for me," he would add. "All right," she would respond. Despite being married for a year, they had not shared a bed. Their relationship as pure as boiled water. He felt he had hindered her, and since she wished for a divorce, he resolved to grant her desire. Yet, a twinge of disappointment lingered within him. Early in the morning, I stood with dark circles under my eyes, brimming with excitement as I packed my belongings. "What can change in size? Little Xia, if I call your name, will you respond?" To my delight, little Xia not only replied but did so with exuberance, causing me to rush to the restroom thrice in the latter half of the night due to my excitement. It was not entirely my fault. I merely awoke parched in the night to drink water, and Xia Yunjian lay there with his blanket askew, his disheveled attire revealing his sculpted abs. I admired the sight, greeting little Xia in my mind, and to my surprise, he stood up obediently. Truly, he listened well to his mother. Xia Yunjian, just waking up, looked bewildered. Upon glancing down, he noticed his blanket was nowhere to be found, and this woman had neglected to cover him. Little Xia was also awake, raising his hand to greet his father. "Well, what a lively morning," I remarked with a playful smile, my eyebrows arching slightly. Xia Yunjian hastily retreated to the restroom, and I couldn't help but laugh, feeling quite satisfied. It was worth it. At least I had accrued some interest before leaving. Before my departure, I savored one last breakfast prepared by Aunt Jo, fragrant banana pancakes and rich black soybean milk. My face bore a contented smile, yet my heart was heavy with regret. Aunt Jo, with a loving demeanor, asked, "Does Xiaxiao enjoy it?" in a tone reminiscent of coaxing a child. I was too preoccupied to text back, simply nodding vigorously. Aunt Jo beamed at me, as though I were her own child. What could be more comforting than a child relishing a parent's cooking? Compared to her cold master, she found herself more fond of this young mistress, who, although silent, always displayed enthusiasm during meals, her sharp little canines peeking through her smile, utterly endearing. "Xiaxia, where is the master? Why hasn't he risen yet?" Typically, by this hour, Xia Yunjian would already be up. I grinned mischievously, scribbling on the notepad Aunt Jo had just brought. "He is off doing good deeds." What good deeds require such an early start? Can't he have breakfast first? Just then, Xia Yunjian descended the stairs. The one doing good deeds has arrived. Xia Yunjian cast a suspicious glance at the individual engrossed in their meal. Sister Zhou, ever quick-witted, promptly presented a breakfast identical to mine. Xia Yunjian dined with remarkable decorum, methodical in his approach, in stark contrast to my fidgeting. "Brother, you're eating, not partaking in something distasteful. Why this serious expression?" "No wonder Sister Zhou seems perpetually troubled when she watches you eat." Xia Yunjian paused mid-bite, his appetite vanishing in an instant. "I haven't finished yet. One mustn't waste food." Caught in a dilemma at the dining table, he ultimately masked his discomfort with a sip of soy milk. I swiftly concluded my last few bites and scrawled a few bold characters on a piece of paper before handing it to him. "I have finished. I shall take my leave now. May we meet again by fate. I hope it's never again." Without paying heed to Xia Yunjian's expression, I skipped jubilantly upstairs. Su Zixia had already vanished into the stairwell, prompting Xia Yunjian to chuckle and shake his head. It seemed she harbored such disdain for me. For the first time, Xia Yunjian found himself questioning his own allure. To express my gratitude for Sister Zhou's meticulous care over the past year, I discreetly placed a generous red envelope by her bedside. Thereafter, I excitedly ventured out with my pink teddy bear suitcase. "Young master, the young mistress has gone out to sketch again. She has difficulty communicating, so you should check in on her often." Sister Zhou remained unaware of their divorce, believing I was merely going out of town to pursue my art. Xia Yunjian lowered his gaze, concealing the emotions within, and murmured, "Yes, understood. I will, Sister Zhou." I moved into my newly purchased apartment. Having just relocated, my finances were limited, allowing me only to acquire this two-bedroom unit located beyond the 3rd Ring Road, which still cost me nearly 2 million. This amount represented all my savings, and I had to borrow from my editor to cover the agency fees and furnish the place. As Mrs. Xia Yunjian granted me a monthly allowance of 100,000. accumulating to 1 million over the course of the year. If it weren't for his first love returning to the country, I would have been reluctant to part with such a splendid position. Days spent in idleness, feasting on delicacies, residing in a grand villa, and sharing a bed with a handsome boss sporting an 8-pack while receiving a salary was an enviable arrangement. Aside from the bittersweet reality of being unable to fully partake, the role of Mrs. Xia was nothing short of perfect. Truly a boon for the female protagonist. I was self-aware. In the divorce, I claimed nothing but the money I had saved. Fortunately, Xia Yunjian, being of good conscience, provided me with 10 million upon parting. Immediately, I transferred 50,000 to my editor, Xiao Yu. Editor Xiao Yu, did you strike it rich, sister? Su Jixia, something like that, care to join me? Editor Xiao Yu, celebrating your newfound single status with flowers. I arranged to meet Xiao Yu at the mall, and together we explored the entire women's clothing section. I began indulging in a spree of retail therapy, accumulating so many bags that I could barely carry them, ultimately resorting to requesting home delivery for the items, allowing the staff to handle the registration. Suddenly, I recalled that Grandpa Xia's 70th birthday was approaching, prompting a detour with Xiao Yu to a jade shop. By a curious twist of fate, I unexpectedly encountered the pair, Xia Yunjian and Bai Qingshuang, emerging from the jade shop. Bai Qingshuang, the original female protagonist of the story, is the very architect of Su Jixia's demise. But has Bai Qingshuang truly returned to the country? My frustration mounted. I regretted skimming through the novel so carelessly. Now, I find myself with only a vague understanding of the overarching plot, while the finer details elude my memory entirely, including the moment the female lead returned home. I should have consulted the almanac before stepping out. Perhaps I could have avoided this encounter. Pretending not to notice, I grasped Xiao Yu's arm and turned to leave. Jixia, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Xia Yunjian chuckled in exasperation, quickening his pace to call out, Su Jixia, stop right there. I contemplated feigning ignorance and continuing my escape, but Xiao Yu, unable to bear it any longer, tugged at me insistently. Jixia, Mr. Xia is calling you. I shot her a glare before turning back to Xia Yunjian, smiling and feigning curiosity. What is it? If there is something to say it quickly. I'm in a hurry to eat. Are you hungry? I'd like to treat you to a meal. Xia Yunjian, inexplicably suppressing his inquiries, extended the invitation. In the grand scheme of things, a meal holds paramount importance. Yet the prospect of dining at the same table as the female lead filled me with trepidation. I feared she might take an interest in me. Thus, I shook my head in refusal. The light bulb has burnt out. It can no longer shine. Xia Yunjian, oblivious to my reluctance, firmly guided me into a Cantonese restaurant. The downside of silence is that even a cry for help cannot escape my lips. Overpowered by sheer physicality, I found myself compelled to sit and partake in the meal, resigned to my fate. My intention was to remain mute and simply eat. You 1 tea-star from this. In a fit of frustration, I speared a piece of braised pork, my expression a mask of hostility. Xia Yunjian continued to regard me with an amused smile, while Bai Qingshuang observed the scene with a furrowed brow, suddenly breaking into laughter as if struck by an epiphany. Mr. Xia, it appears that Miss Su is somewhat different from the rumors. I continued to eat, my thoughts simmering with disdain. What business is it of yours? You insufferable green tea bitch. Rumor has it that the former Mrs. Xia was timid, avoiding strangers, and has never attended any public event with Mr. Xia since their marriage. Yet today, one cannot discern any shyness in Miss Su. Though she may not speak, she seems quite lively. She emphasized the title of former Mrs. Xia, as if to remind me of my own identity. Here it comes. I knew the green tea would stir the pot. She insinuates that Xia Yunjian never brings me out because he dislikes me. Xia Yunjian, this scoundrel, has it only been days since the divorce? And he is already broadcasting it to the world? This separation was indeed timely, artfully executed, and resoundingly justified. I don't. Xia Yunjian suddenly turned serious, fixing his gaze upon me. I don't dislike bringing you out. It is I who, due to childhood experiences, shun contact with others. I understood. But that was the original protagonist. Her silence stemmed from her own past traumas. At the tender age of 10, witnessing the brutal murder of her parents by vengeful foes left the original owner in a state of shock, rendered mute when the police discovered her cowering in a wardrobe. The doctors attributed her silence to an acute stress reaction stemming from overwhelming terror, necessitating extensive psychological therapy for recovery. Following her parents' tragic demise, She was taken in by her uncle and resided in his household until university, enduring immense hardship due to her inability to speak and suffering long-term bullying at school. The prospect of hospital treatment was far from her reach. This traumatic experience cultivated within her a timid and introverted disposition. When she approached the Xia family, demanding that Xia Yunjian fulfill their marriage contract, her subsequent insistence on remaining married became perhaps the most resolute decision of her life. Regrettably, the outcome was far from favorable. I shook my head, indicating it was of no consequence. In truth, it mattered little. They were divorced now, and such matters were trivial. Bai Qingshuang, however, was unwilling to forfeit this opportunity to mock me. Miss Su, do not be shy. Please indulge yourself. I've heard you spent your childhood under someone else's roof, and you likely had little chance to dine at restaurants. Now that you have shed your identity as Mrs. Xia, your life must surely be less comfortable. Should you encounter any difficulties, feel free to seek my assistance. I will do my utmost to help. Xia Yunjian frowned at her words. Qingshuang, you have overstepped. Qingshuang scoffed, her familiarity betraying an underlying affair.
No.
Xia Yunjian suddenly exclaimed, startling me and causing the piece of braised pork that had been poised at the edge of my bowl to tumble back into it. He awkwardly clarified, I meant to say I haven't had a chance to taste this dish yet. Please save me some. I gazed at him in alarm before glancing down at the last piece of braised pork in my bowl, feeling a pang of regret. The dishes at this restaurant were exquisitely presented and delectable, yet the portions were indeed quite small. A plate of braised pork contained only a few morsels. I had not even savored it myself, and yet he was attempting to snatch it away. To think he would vie for a piece of meat with a mute Xia Yunjian. You have no shame. With a smile, I transferred the last morsel of braised pork to Xia Yunjian's bowl, my phone displaying the message, you eat. Seeing the boss enjoy his meal is my greatest joy. Xia Yunjian's ears flushed crimson as, under my eager gaze, he devoured the piece of meat.
Azon.
Let us depart once we finish. We have a meeting shortly. Bai Qingshuang interrupted our interaction, issuing a warning before we left. Miss Su, you are aware that Mr. Xia married you only under the pressure of the elder Xia. Now that you are divorced, please refrain from appearing before Ajan or entangling yourself with him. Excuse me, sister, which of your eyes witnessed me entangling with him? I rolled my eyes internally, yet obediently nodded in response. For heaven's sake, I'll tolerate you this once. Do not let it happen again, or I shall not hesitate to confront you, regardless of your status as the heroine. If necessary, I shall eliminate the heroine to take her place. I had thought that my interactions with the protagonists would cease as I immerse myself in the comfort of home, dedicating my time to writing and refining the comic that the original owner had left unfinished. One day, Xiao Yu excitedly messaged me. Editor Xiao Yu, Ji Xia, someone has taken a liking to your comic and wishes to purchase the rights to adapt it into a game. Ji was Xia Yi, really? Who possesses such discernment? Editor Xiao Yu, it is a gaming company named Light Gap Future. Ji was Xia Yi, how much are they offering? Editor Xiao Yu, 3 million. I leapt onto my bed, rolling the quilt into a twisted shape. On the day I received the copyright fee, I fetched my phone and sent a message to my college roommate group. Men change often, but sisters remain steadfast. Ji was Xia Yi. Tonight at 8, in the luxurious suite at Shengshe Huiding, 10 male models. Be there or be square. At 8 o'clock, to my surprise, I was the last to arrive. This group of lecherous friends were positively buzzing at the mention of male models. The most audacious, Su Su, threw her arm around my neck. Wow, Ji Xia, you've struck it rich. 10 male models at your command. Out with it. I quickly typed to inform them of my comics adaptation, carefully omitting the part about my divorce from Xia Yunjian. After all, they were still unaware of my marriage, and if I suddenly revealed it, they might think I had lost my mind, fancifully believing that the story of Cinderella was unfolding in my life. The three of them were genuinely thrilled for me, clamoring to have the most handsome among them serve drinks. True to my word, the 10 male models lined up, clad in matching black trousers and white shirts. Though they wore a uniform, each exuded a distinct charm. I found myself fixated on one particularly appealing model, my mind swirling with frivolous thoughts. Chest muscles, abdominal muscles.
Oh my.
I wonder how he compares to little Xia in terms of physique. Those fortunate enough to work here were keenly perceptive. The men noticed the interest in my eyes and approached, taking my hand and guiding it to the deliberately unbuttoned area of his shirt. Oh my, oh dear. Outside, Xia Yunjian, passing by, caught the familiar sound, his teeth nearly grinding in frustration. Suddenly, the door was kicked open, and I reflexively buried my head in the chest of the man beside me. The sight that greeted Xia Yunjian as he entered was quite the spectacle. There I was, resembling a starved fiend, burying my face in the man's chest while inhaling deeply. Su exclaimed, "Wow, Ji Xia, did you order this one?" A gem. Upon hearing the word gem, my eyes lit up and I instinctively lifted my head. In the next moment, my body felt like a gelatinous mass as I slipped down to the floor, hiding beneath the coffee table. Why is Xia Yunjian here? To be caught by my ex-husband in the act of ordering male models was utterly mortifying. No, wait. Why should I fear my ex-husband? I feigned nonchalance as I rose and returned to the sofa, flashing a grin at Xia Yunjian. The male model beside me, ever considerate, gently tucked my hand back into his shirt. Perhaps that level of attentiveness is unnecessary, but I should seize the moment. I hastily took advantage of the situation, extracting my hand with utmost seriousness under Xia Yunjian's piercing gaze. "Hello, ex-husband. No need to linger. Hurry along. Don't impede my important matters." Xia Yunjian narrowed his eyes, hands tucked into his pockets, approaching with an undeniable aura that rendered my 3 roommates motionless. At that moment, the male model beside me spoke up. "Hey, Miss Su is looking for me first. It's first come, first served, understand?" I nodded fervently. Confronted by Xia Yunjian's menacing gaze, I shook my head vigorously, like a rattledrum. What is Xia Yunjian doing? This is quite terrifying. Xia Yunjian pushed aside the man lingering nearby, grasped my chin, and, suppressing his fury, said, "So you do no fear? Did I not tell you not to engage in illegal activities with money? I swear, I merely touched it." "Touching is not permissible," he bellowed. I flinched and cast a pleading glance at my 3 roommates. Su, under immense pressure, spoke up. Handsome, who are you?" Xia Yunjian pulled me close, enveloping me in his embrace as he led me outside. "I am her husband." The 3 in the room stood frozen in shock, while I felt as though I had been abducted, being ushered out of the grand estate. My mind was screaming, "Ex-husband, ex-husband, what husband? An ex-husband is still a husband, is he not?" A melodious voice whispered in my ear, "As long as you're happy, let us go. I'll take you home." Xia Yunjian opened the car door, gesturing for me to enter. Sitting in the passenger seat, I turned my back to him, blatantly expressing my discontent. Darn Xia Yunjian, taking advantage of my silence to bully me. I spent a fortune on male models, just a touch once. I haven't even seen any of the shows featuring abs popping open bottles or hip dances. Oh dear, what a loss. The next moment, my phone chimed, revealing an unread message. Upon opening it, I saw that Xia Yunjian had transferred 500,000 to my bank account. I turned my head as if worshipping the god of wealth, my eyes sparkling with affection. Xia Yunjian snorted and set his phone down. A thunderous sound echoed, and President Xia made his dazzling entrance. Amidst the chaos, today as President Xia shines the brightest. Life is as easy as turning one's hand. President Xia reigns supreme. In a world devoid of towering trees, only President Xia stands reliable. Oh yeah, your card has a limit. You can only receive a maximum of 500,000 in a day. You should sort that out at the bank next time, Xia Yunjian remarked with an air of superiority. I adore President Xia's arrogant demeanor. My eyes twinkled like stars. It's my fault. From this day forward, I shall raise the banner for President Xia. Let us see who dares oppose him. Enemies abound, yet I shall be his flag. Xia Yunjian's lips curled into a smirk as he ruffled my hair, and even upon reaching my apartment, his expression remained unfazed. "I'll take you upstairs," he interjected before I could bid farewell, pushing me toward the corridor, inexplicably following me into my home. I opened the shoe cabinet and pulled out a pair of men's slippers, offering them to Xia Yunjian as a suggestion to change. His eyes narrowed. "Have you had men over in your room?" "Men? What men?" I excitedly glanced around the room, only to realize the source of my anticipation was the pair of slippers in his hand. Oh, how foolish of me to get all worked up. Those slippers were prepared by me early this morning. I typed furiously, frustration seeping into my words. Is it too much to ask for a little preparation for my future boyfriend? After showing him, I turned and retreated to the kitchen to fetch some water. The man standing at the door, however, smirked with a triumphant grin. Once Xia Yunjian entered the room, he began surveying his surroundings. Quick as a flash, I managed to shut the bedroom door before he could step inside. I can't let him see the new toy I left on the bed. Xia Yunjan's brow twitched as he pushed the door open, effortlessly bypassing my grasp. My futile attempts to restrain him were in vain. Unable to shout, I resorted to biting his arm in frustration. Ouch, are you a dog? This, however, did nothing to halt his swift approach towards my imposing bed. He grasped the unopened toy in his long fingers, an inexplicable thrill coursing through me. If I had brought a male model home tonight, I would surely be reveling in ecstasy right now. His hand paused, and Xia Yunjan slowly discarded the bag he had picked up, methodically peeling away the packaging and loosening his tie. In an unexpected turn of events, he bound my wrists and pushed me onto the bed. I gasped, my eyes wide, and my legs flailed. What's going on? The tension of a man and woman alone in a room was palpable. Xia Yunjan, how dare you bully a mute? If you're so bold, why not strip down and let me take the lead? Let me pleasure you first, then it will be your turn, all right? His sultry voice was a mere whisper against my ear, intoxicatingly close, and I felt my resolve weaken. The unfolding events exceeded all my expectations. Initially, I had been resistant. The aloof and regal Xia Yunjan had lowered himself to this level. Just when I thought I was to be thoroughly consumed, this audacious man abandoned me, blissfully dazed. To head straight to the bathroom. Xia Yunjan, are you even a man? With a virgin lying on the bed, how can you resist? Disappointment mingled with relief washed over me. It was too soon after a divorce to jump into bed with someone new. The sound of running water drowned out his heavy breaths. The room lacked any men's loungewear, leaving only a towel I had previously used in the bathroom. Xia Yunjan completely overlooked this detail and emerged wrapped in a towel around his lower half. My hand halted mid-reach for the wardrobe, my gaze fixated on his sculpted torso. Unable to look away. Oh my, this is too much. His short, damp hair was only half dried, and a veil of steam enveloped him. His upper body was bare, revealing broad shoulders and a narrow waist, muscles sharply defined. Drops of water glistened at the tips of his hair, cascading down to his chiseled abdomen, disappearing below the line of his hips. I was inexplicably parched, my limbs uncooperative, tripping over my own feet as I walked, nearly losing my balance. Oh no, oh no. Xia Yunjan swiftly stepped forward and caught me securely in his arms. I found myself pressed against his warm body, my face flushed to deep crimson. To my dismay, he grasped my hand and guided it over the abdominal muscles I had longed to touch. Once you've touched me, you cannot touch anyone else. Indeed, who could compare to your beauty? I shamefully succumbed to the imposing presence of Mr. Xia. A muffled chuckle escaped Xia Yunjan's lips. Is this how much you like it? I never realized you were such a. It appeared that the words trailing off were too difficult for him to utter. Composed? He must be trying to compliment my composure. Ha ha ha. The man holding me laughed uncontrollably, forgetting he was merely wrapped in a towel. Feeling something slip, I immediately glanced down, witnessing sights both intended and unintended. I cover my mouth, my eyebrows quivering. Oh dear. Little Xia has transformed into big Xia. Xia Yunjan suddenly dove into my bed. I shall sleep here tonight. You should fetch another blanket. His voice muffled beneath the covers, oddly endearing. Who permitted you to sleep here? What if I lose control? I poked his head buried in the duvet, handing him my phone. Mr. Xia, we are divorced. We should maintain our distance. Xia Yunjan pouted. You heartless little thing. Enjoying yourself and then casting me aside. Truly despicable. He retreated back under the covers, shouting, then let us remarry. What began as a mere jest caused both of us to pause. What nonsense is this? You simply marry? Will we return to being ascetic monks? Let whoever wishes to engage in that do so. As Xia Yunjan contemplated the feasibility of remarriage, I began my tirade of complaints. Sitting on the edge of the bed, organizing my dismissal on my phone, I was abruptly pulled into the darkness of the duvet. Facing each other in the obscurity, his breath, heavy with male pheromones, brushed against my face, quickening my breaths. At that moment, Xia Yunjan leaned closer, whispering in my ear, Xia, I am a normal man. I once believed it was a matter of respect. If you desire, I am open to it. What? Xia Yunjan, are you serious? But you do not love me. See. Men are creatures who think with their lower halves. Even without love, relations can occur. Xia Yunjan's lips abruptly withdrew. He took a deep breath, his voice hoarse. Xia. Let us talk. 10 minutes later, Xia Yunjan, wrapped in a barely concealing bathrobe, sat opposite me. I donned a robe that reached my calves, he barely covering his upper thighs, his long, pale legs tantalizingly visible as he moved. However, I had no heart to admire. My mind was consumed with what Xia Yunjan wished to discuss. He wouldn't he be so embarrassed as to retract the 10 million he promised me, would he? Or perhaps he wishes for me to be his mistress alongside a legitimate partner. How shameless. Am I that kind of person? Xia Yunjian tugged at the corners of his mouth, interrupting my thoughts. Xia, after you left, I contemplated much. What did you contemplate? I think I might like you. I gazed at him with an expression devoid of any joy or astonishment, merely observing his surprise at my calm demeanor. I took the notebook before me and inscribed, Mr. Xia, it's time to return home once you've had your fill of amusement. There is no need to subject yourself to discomfort.
To me,
this entire affair seemed nothing more than a pastime for him. Men are inherently fickle. If I were to dramatically seek a divorce and continue to entangle myself with him post-separation, he would likely grow weary. However, if I were to leave joyfully, presenting an air of indifference, he would undoubtedly feel a sense of imbalance. See, men are indeed complex. Xia Yunjian rubbed his temples in exasperation. Xia. I am not jesting, I am serious. After you left, I often waited downstairs at your apartment, merely to catch a glimpse of you. This revelation genuinely astonished me. Was this man sincere? No wonder he seemed so familiar with the route to my home. It seems he had already mapped it out. I wrote, So what, Mr. Xia? You have found a new love, so please refrain from stirring my emotions as your ex-wife. His tone was filled with incredulity. When did I acquire a new love? I am unaware of this. I pressed the pen harder against the paper. The woman you were with last time, her name is Bai Qingxuang. They appeared rather intimate. It would be absurd to assume otherwise. Yet, Xia Yunjian suddenly chuckled. Xia, are you feeling jealous? I rolled my eyes. I wouldn't feel jealousy even if I were eating dirt. His smile faltered, a blend of affection and resignation. You are indeed quite unique. This man, after professing his affections for me, claimed that Bai Qingxuang was merely a new employee who happened to be at the store that day. I would only believe you if it were a lie. He offered me time to contemplate the feasibility of reconciliation, insisting that once remarried, separation would no longer be an option. His assistant delivered a fresh set of clothing, and only after changing did he depart. I inhaled sharply. I had encountered the assistant numerous times in the neighborhood. I had seen him on my first day moving in. Puzzled by his furtive presence downstairs, little did I know he was Xia Yunjian's informant. What was wrong with this man? The narrative seemed to deviate. Xia Yunjian was not with Bai Qingxuang after all. For the first time, I found myself at a loss for what to do. The following morning, I slept soundly. My phone, lying beside my pillow, buzzed incessantly, but I ignored it, continuing to dream. Yet, it persisted, as if harboring a grudge against me, ringing every few seconds. Frustrated, I finally sat up and checked my phone. Xia Yunjian had sent me dozens of messages, while the remainder came from a group chat titled Men Change Often. Sisters Stay Together. Upon glancing at the group chat, I was bombarded with inquiries about when I had acquired a husband. I was at a loss for how to respond. So I simply stated that I would find time to explain everything in due course. These people, they must have had quite the night. Only to come asking me in the morning. I could only express a modicum of concern, but nothing more. Xia Yunjian came to inform me about attending Grandpa Xia's 70th birthday celebration tomorrow, accompanied by an abundance of overly sentimental greetings. Xia, are you still not awake? I barely slept a wink last night. Do you know why I couldn't sleep? Every time I close my eyes, it's only you that occupies my thoughts. The more I think of you, the more excited I become. I've gone to the restroom 3 times. It's truly unbearable to be alone, unable to find solace in sleep. When will you return to keep me company? Xia, I miss you dearly. To receive such an invitation so early in the morning felt rather excessive. I replied, tersely noted. I opted for an air of aloofness, leaving him to ponder my thoughts. Upon receiving my message, Xia Yunjian chuckled softly, shaking his head, muttering, little ingrate. The following morning, Xia Yunjian sent his assistant to escort me, leading me to get my makeup done and change into formal attire. I relished the ease of having someone else arrange everything, freeing me from any worries. Truly a welcome arrangement. At the banquet, I made my debut as Mrs. Xia, appearing alongside Xia Yunjian. This unreliable man insisted that today was a joyous occasion for his grandfather and that revealing our divorce would dampen his spirits, urging me to continue playing the role of his wife. Remembering the kindness of the elder Xia, I smiled in agreement, linking my arm with his as we greeted the guests. For the first time, I savored the advantages of silence. All I needed to do was hold my head high. smile, and nod to each person who came to greet us, fulfilling my role as Xia Yunjan's companion without the need to engage in the complexities of social interactions. However, there are always those who wish to see me falter. While I stepped away to use the restroom, I encountered Bai Qingshuang, who was also attending the celebration. I pretended not to see her, disregarding her as she washed her hands and prepared to leave. Hey, Su Jixia, how rude can you be? Didn't your parents teach you to greet people when you see them? Reluctantly, I turned around and showed her my phone. I'm sorry, but where's the person? Are you blind? Can't you see me, a grown woman standing here? Oh, I thought it was just a mad dog barking. Turns out it's you, Miss Bai. Bai Qingshuang pointed at me and shouted, Did you just call me a mad dog? Do you want me to tear your mouth apart? I caught sight of Xia Yunjan approaching me and pinched myself hard. With tears welling in my eyes, I gazed at Bai Qingshuang, feigning a pitiful expression. My tears teetering on the brink of falling, creating a stark contrast to Bai Qingshuang's domineering demeanor. Let the green tea walk the path of the green tea, leaving no route for the green tea to traverse. Sure enough, Xia Yunjan assumed I was being bullied and pulled me protectively behind him, asking with concern, Xia, are you alright? I lowered my head and shook it. Xia Yunjan, suppressing his anger, confronted Bai Qingshuang. Miss Bai, guests are to be treated with respect. If you unjustly bully someone from the Xia family, do not blame me for disregarding etiquette and asking you to leave. Bai Qingshuang's eyes widened in disbelief as she pointed at me, angrily exclaiming, This shameless woman is just pretending. You're divorced and yet you still defend her? Xia Yunjan's expression turned ominously serious as he collected himself. Su Jixia is my wife. We will remarry. Please show her the respect she deserves. And refrain from meddling in my family affairs in the future. Realizing that anger was futile, Bai Qingshuang shifted to a sorrowful expression.
Jean.
Do you no longer love me? I sacrificed a lucrative job abroad just to return to your side, and this is how you treat me? You silently transferred me to a branch office for her, without even considering my feelings? I gazed at the man's sturdy back, my emotions entangled. Xia Yunjan had moved Bai Qingshuang to a branch office? If I recalled correctly, the branch of Xia Group was situated in Anqing, over 1,000 kilometers away from Shangjing. No wonder I hadn't heard from Bai Qingshuang since our last encounter. This occurrence was not part of the original narrative. The story had veered far from its intended path. Xia Yunjan's voice remained as cold as ever. It's a routine internal transfer. If you are unwilling, you may resign and follow the proper procedures with human resources. After saying this, he took my hand and walked away, leaving Bai Qingshuang in a daze. Once we departed the banquet and were seated in Xia Yunjan's car, I maintained a profound silence, my thoughts eerily calm. Xia Yunjan kept glancing at me out of the corner of his eye. I was aware of it. Yet I found myself at a loss for words and uncertain of how to proceed. One question consumed my mind. Would the altered trajectory of the plot ever be set right? As a voracious reader for the past decade, I had perused countless novels encompassing themes of time travel, soul transmigration, and various forms of narrative immersion. Yet, I had never anticipated that I would find myself in such a scenario. Most novels about narrative immersion assert that the original plot cannot be altered. Yet the reality was that it had already changed. I feared becoming too deeply entrenched, only to face disillusionment in the end. Is something troubling you? Xia Yunjan's voice was neither too loud nor too soft, possessing a comforting quality. Is there anything I can do to help? I looked at his finely chiseled profile and unexpectedly smiled. To hell with the female lead. I would be the protagonist of my own story. Life is short. One must seize joy in the moment. Su Jixia, with such an exceptional man by my side, what was I hesitating for? Xia Yunjan seemed to comprehend my thoughts, casting a gentle glance in my direction. I resolved not to let him off easily. I would take the initiative. I proudly tapped my phone screen. I'm hungry. I want to eat barbecue. All right, as you wish, he replied, his voice deep and tender. The car halted by the roadside, and I exited first while Xia Yunjan went to park. You look for a restaurant, and I'll be right back after parking, he said. I waved my hand with a smile, urging him to hurry. This street was a vibrant night market, lined with eateries open until dawn. I stood by the roadside, pulling out my phone to check the ratings of various establishments, completely oblivious to the black sedan that had just turned the corner and was speeding towards me. Xia. A heart-wrenching roar startled me, prompting an immediate turn. I widened my eyes in disbelief as Xia Yunjan rushed over, positioning himself in front of me. Xia Yunjan, I shouted suddenly. He embraced me, and we were both struck, tumbling several meters away. My head spun and my body ached, yet I was acutely aware that I had not sustained severe injuries. I swiftly captured the license plate number of the hit-and-run vehicle. Trembling, I typed a plea for help to kind passersby, urging them to call for an ambulance and report to the authorities. The name I had just shouted felt like a mere illusion. I yearned to utter more, yet no sound would escape my lips despite my desperate attempts. I loathed my own helplessness, crouching beside Xia Yunjian, tears streaming down my cheeks like unrestrained pearls. Upon reaching the hospital, I valiantly endured the pain, sitting outside the operating room to send a message to grandfather Xia. In the original narrative, Su Zhixia refused to divorce, provoking by Qingshuang, who, in a fit of rage,
orchestrated Shu Zixia's fatal accident.
Now, the tragic scene had replayed, and I surmised that Bai Qingshuang remained the orchestrator of this calamity. To unveil the true culprit behind the scenes, one must act swiftly, precisely, and resolutely. My own capabilities fell short, but the true patriarch of the Xia family, grandfather Xia, who had lingered in the shadows for years, was more than capable. Once I had relayed all necessary information, I breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing the doctor announce that the patient had been stabilized and was out of danger. Only then did I allow myself to succumb to unconsciousness. When I awoke, it was already the following afternoon. Grandfather Xia sat at my bedside. I wished to speak, but as I opened my mouth, I remembered my inability to produce sound. Child, do not fret. Yunjian has emerged from danger. The doctor reports that he has fractured 2 ribs, yet fortunately, there has been no internal bleeding. With proper recovery post-surgery, he will not face significant repercussions, he reassured me. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It was far less severe than I had feared. Convinced of my own stability, I attempted to rise and check on Xia Yunjian, only to be compelled by grandfather Xia to consume a bowl of lean meat porridge before I could go to him. Standing beside the hospital bed, I was engulfed by a mix of heartache and guilt. It's all my fault for indulging in barbecued food. If I had returned home immediately, Bai Qingshuang would not have had the opportunity to strike. With thoughts of Bai Qingshuang gnawing at me, I gritted my teeth and inquired about the situation from grandfather Xia. He informed me that the driver had been apprehended the previous night. The driver, having panicked after mistakenly hitting the wrong person, fled only to seek refuge with Bai Qingshuang, whereupon he was caught red-handed by the Xia family, who had received news just in time. It was precisely due to the driver's panic that he had slammed on the brakes, preventing Xia Yunjian from sustaining more severe injuries. Both their call logs and transfer records were intact, and the driver, eager for leniency, had readily confessed every detail. Bai Qingshuang at this moment had already been arrested, and this time, there would be no escape for her. I settled into a monotonous routine of visiting Xia Yunjian, working, consulting with a psychologist, and undergoing rehabilitation. Xia Yunjian requested that I return to the villa, but I declined. You think you can simply have me share your bed without even a proper proposal? Not a chance. One day, as I finished my appointment with the doctor and returned home, intending to change before visiting the Xia household, I opened the door to find the interior shrouded in darkness. The curtains had not been drawn when I left, yet now the windows were pitch black, devoid of any light. Sensing something amiss, I prepared to flee, closing the door behind me. Suddenly, the lights flickered on. I shielded my eyes, allowing a few moments for adjustment before lowering my hand. A gentle melody filled the air as a dapper man clad in a gray suit emerged in the living room, holding a bouquet of flowers. It was then that I noticed the room had transformed into a veritable sea of blossoms. My heart raced with fervor, and I felt as if I were frozen in place. I am utterly certain. A kiss leads to another, and it cannot cease. I have loved you to the point of folly. Romance is an indulgence, and sweetness is a state of blissful oblivion. I cannot release this delightful torment. You are incorrigible. My longing for you is the most exquisite ballad. You are the architect of my happiness. Grasping my arm, you envelop me in your embrace. Do not blame me for loving you so fervently. The deep, gravelly male voice unexpectedly harmonized with the melody. As the song concluded, Xia Yunjian approached me and knelt on one knee. The diamond ring he produced nearly blinded me with its brilliance. Will you marry me, Xia Xia? His eyes shimmered with unshed tears. In my heart, I screamed, what a magnificent diamond. It has materialized from my dreams. Yet, I maintained a composed facade as I handed him my phone, stating, isn't the previous ring still available? Why go to such expense? Unfazed, Xia Yunjian continued to gaze at me with unwavering affection. My Xia Xia deserves the best. I have wronged you in the past. I held my head high, extending my hand. Hurry, place it on my finger. I wish to dazzle everyone on social media. Xia Yunjian's hands trembled, Yet he steadied himself as he adorned my finger with the ring and enveloped me tightly in his arms. Su Jixia, I love you, he murmured, as if in a private confession. This time, I offered a clear response. I love you too, Xia Yunjian. My heart seemed to suspend its rhythm beside his ear. Xia Yunjian looked at me, astonished, stuttering as he repeated, Xia Xiaoyu. You can speak? Yes, are you surprised? Surprised, truly overwhelmed with joy. His voice trembled with emotion. My heart softened as I shifted the conversation to the song he had sung. What made you choose that particular song? Because my Xia adores it. I felt a swell of emotion at his remembrance. How did I perform? Did I embarrass you? Mediocre, I teased inwardly, while my heart cheered for him. It was utterly enchanting. Please sing more in the future. Do you like it? Shall I continue singing to you in bed? Xia Yunjian swept me into his arms, heading straight for the bedroom. Hey, I haven't removed my makeup yet. I haven't bathed. His voice was low and alluring, filled with a tantalizing promise. I shall assist you. Oh my, Xia Yunjian, you incorrigible rogue. 20 moments later, I pondered inwardly. Darling, where are my undergarments? Xia Yunjian skillfully retrieved the discarded item from the bedside, astonished as he inquired, What did you call me? Hee, what would you like me to call you?
Xia Yunjian.
Eavesdropping on my thoughts, thinking I was unaware.
Ah.
Mercy, my dear wife. All that responded was Xia Yunjian's pitiful exclamation. The end.